The big house is very quiet. Insok is sitting at his computer desk. He's working. His face is serious, even stern. He's wearing his dark silk lounge suit. His tattooed hands rest on the keyboard. He's completely focused on the screen. In the same living room, on the warm carpet, sit two girls. They are Camilla and Kayla. They are twins. They are 6 years old. They are wearing identical light dresses with small flowers. Their hair is golden curls down to their shoulders. They are drawing with markers in large sketchbooks. But they're bored. They've been drawing for a long time. The silence is oppressive. They look up and see their father's back. He's been busy this morning. He didn't play with them, didn't laugh. He even seemed distant at breakfast. The girls exchange glances. They don't like this silence. They want their dad to turn around, smile, and notice them. Insok's voice breaks the silence, but it's not his usual voice. It sounds angry and low. He's talking on the phone. The girls freeze and stop drawing. They listen. "No," Insok says firmly. "That's not an option." "Understood." He stands by the window with his back to them. He listens to what they are saying to him into the receiver, and his shoulders are tense. "I warned you one last time," he says again. His voice is quieter, but that only makes it more frightening. "If he shows up again, I'll deal with it. Myself." Camilla and Kayla stare at each other, their eyes wide. They don't understand everything he's saying, but they can tell Dad is angry. Really angry. They've never heard him talk like that before. That unfamiliar voice makes them a little scared. Insok abruptly puts his phone down on the table. He stands and looks out the window, then sighs heavily. He sits back down at the computer, but doesn't work, just stares into space. The girls see his tense profile. They really want their dad to stop being so angry. They want to cheer him up. Camilla leans over to her sister and whispers in her ear, "Daddy's really angry. We need to distract him." Kayla nods. She understands it too. "How?" she whispers back. Camilla smiles, her eyes sparkling. "Let's play hide and seek with him. When he searches, he always laughs afterwards." The thought of playing immediately makes them happy. Hide and seek is their favorite game in this big house. There are so many rooms to hide in. And Dad, when he's looking, walks around and stomps loudly, then yells, "Boo!" and laughs. Kayla starts smiling too. This is a great idea. They'll be able to make Dad laugh. They carefully close the markers and stand up. They hold hands and tiptoe to Dad's desk. Insok hears their footsteps. He sees their reflection in the dark screen of the monitor, but he doesn't turn around. His mind is spinning from that conversation. He needs to think, to solve the problem. He has no time for games. Two small shadows stop next to his chair. "Daddy!" Camilla calls in a thin voice. "Daddy!" Kayla says immediately. Insok slowly turns his head towards them. He looks down at them, his gaze tired and distracted. "What?" he asks curtly. "Let's play hide and seek," says Camilla, her face shining with hope. "We'll hide, and you'll find us. We'll be quiet, quiet. Please, please," claps Kayla. Insok stares at them for a few seconds. His mind refuses to switch from serious matters to the game. He just wants them to go away and leave him alone, so he can calmly think things through. To get rid of them quickly, he nods. His gaze already darts back to the screen. "Yes, good. Hide," he says automatically. There's no interest in his voice. He doesn't even look at their reaction. He hears their joyful squeals and their quick, retreating footsteps. He sighs with relief and returns to his thoughts. He's already forgotten what he just said. For him, it was just a word to get rid of him. For the girls, it was the beginning of the most important game. For Camilla and Kayla, Dad's yes is like magic. Hooray! Dad is going to play. They run out of the living room into the wide hallway. Usually, they hide in their rooms or in the playroom. But today, they want something special. The best hiding place. "Let's hide somewhere they won't be able to find us," Kayla suggests. Camilla looks down the hallway. It's rarely used. There's a guest room and a maid's room there. It's always quiet and a little dark. "Let's run there," she says. They run down a long corridor, their white dresses flashing. Their golden curls bounce as they run. They laugh and try to run as quietly as possible, for real, like in a game. They reach the very end of the corridor. It smells different here, not like their home, but like something neutral, like a hotel. They stop in front of two doors. One door leads to the guest room. It's closed. The other leads to the maid's room, Aunt Sophia's. This door is ajar. The girls freeze. This is strange. The door to Aunt Sophia's room is always closed. Aunt Sophia herself isn't working today. It's her day off. No one should be in her room. Camilla gently pushes the door with her fingertips. It quietly moves inward, opening a little wider. Look, it's open, Kayla whispers. Then we can come in, Camilla replies, just as quietly. Aunt Sophia won't scold you. She's kind, and this is a great place to hide. The idea of hiding in a strange, forbidden room seems like the height of hide and seek. Dad will definitely be looking for them here for a long time. They exchange glances again, their eyes sparkling with excitement. Camilla is the first to slip through the crack. Kayla follows. The room is small and tidy. A neatly made bed, a nightstand, and a small table. But the first thing the girls notice is the smell. It's not Aunt Sophia's scent. She smells of floral soap and cleanliness. But here, the air is thick with the harsh, heavy scent of someone else's cologne. It's sharp and unpleasant. The girls wrinkle their noses. Ugh, that smells, says Kayla. Aunt Sophia's uncle must have been here, suggests Camilla, shrugging. Their attention is immediately drawn to the table. On it sits a plate. On the plate is a veritable mountain of chocolate chip cookies. And next to the plate lies a bracelet. Not a woman's, but a man's, made of thick black leather, with a large metal buckle. It looks rough and out of place in this neat little room. Camilla carefully touches it with her finger. The skin is cold and rough. It's foreign, Kayla states, but the cookie smells delicious. It's clearly fresh. Thoughts of the strange smell and the bracelet immediately recede before the sight of the treat. After all, they're visiting Aunt Sophia, even if she's not there, and she always treats them. Camilla recalls. They look around. There's a large, old, dark wood wardrobe in the room. It's standing in the corner. Over there, they say simultaneously. They run to the wardrobe. Camilla carefully pulls the handle. The door opens silently. A few clothes hang inside, and there's plenty of empty space below. The perfect hiding place. They climb inside, adjusting their position. Camilla closes the door, but not all the way. A very narrow gap remains. Through this gap, part of the room is clearly visible. The legs of the bed, the corner of the table with cookies, and a piece of the door itself into the hallway. That's so good, Kayla whispers contentedly. We can see everyone, but they can't see us. She's already reaching for the pocket of her dress, where she's managed to fill some cookies. Camilla does the same. Now they're sitting in the darkness of a large closet, munching on sweet cookies, and peering through a crack into the empty room. They're ready. The game has begun. They're waiting for Dad to start looking for them. It doesn't even occur to them that Dad has already forgotten about them, and that what they saw in this room weren't just random things, but signs of a strange, uninvited presence. A presence that might not have ended yet. The girls are sitting in the darkness of the cloakroom. They've finished their cookies and are now just waiting. They're getting a little tired of sitting quietly. They're starting to stir. Suddenly, Camilla freezes. She peers through the crack and grabs Kayla's hand. Shh, she hisses. Through the crack, a fragment of the corridor beyond the open door of the room is visible, and something quickly darts along this fragment. Dark, like a shadow. They don't see who it is, but they hear footsteps. Quick, heavy, not at all like Mom's light steps or Dad's measured ones. These are alien footsteps. They sound right outside the door, then become quieter. The shadow has moved further down the corridor. Camilla and Kayla hold their breath. They stare at each other in the dim light of the closet. Their eyes are wide with surprise. Who is it? Kayla whispers, her lips barely moving. I don't know, Camilla answers just as silently. Maybe Dad? But they immediately realize, no, Dad walks differently. And Dad would have been looking for them, peering into rooms, calling out to them. But this someone just walked past. Didn't even look. They feel a little uneasy. But a game is a game. They've decided to keep quiet, so they won't. Even if someone strange passes by, they cuddle together and remain silent. A little more time passes. The girls are already completely tired of sitting still. Camilla looks through the crack again. She looks at the table, at the plate of cookies. She wants something sweet again. She thinks about sneaking out and getting some more. And then she notices. Her eyes widen. She nudges Kayla with her elbow and points through the crack at the table. Kayla looks. She blinks too, not understanding. The plate of cookies is still on the table, but the bracelet is no longer there. It's not on the table. It's not on the floor. It's simply gone. Where did it go? Kayla whispers, stunned. I don't know, Camilla whispers. Was it just gone? They think. They clearly remember that when they entered the room, the bracelet was there. They touched it. Then they sat in the closet. Then a shadow passed, And now the bracelet is gone. The thought comes to them slowly but surely. Whoever passed by took it, Camilla finally says. Why? Kayla asks. Camilla shrugs in the darkness. She doesn't know, but the fact remains there's someone else in the house besides them and their parents, someone who walks quietly and takes their things. And for some reason, this someone doesn't need cookies. This isn't just a game anymore. It's getting really weird. But it's scary to come out of hiding. What if that someone comes back? Better to sit quietly and wait for Dad. Dad will definitely figure everything out when he comes looking for them. Suddenly, a voice comes from the distant rooms. The clear, beautiful, familiar voice of their mother, Jadis. Girls, Camilla, Kayla, come to dinner. Soup is on the table. The voice sounds somewhere from the kitchen or the dining room. It's so homely, so ordinary, that the girls immediately smile. All the oddities are instantly forgotten. They look at each other and almost laugh. Their eyes say, Here it is, the game! Mom's calling, which means Dad's already looking. Now he'll hear Mom and realize we're hiding. They press their lips together to keep from giggling. True treasure hunters must remain silent when being searched for. They sit like mice, even breathing very quietly. They wait for the door to the room to swing open, and for their father to appear with a serious face and say, Where are my naughty daughters? But the door doesn't open. Mom's voice sounds again, a little closer. Camila, Kayla, where are you? Lunch is getting cold. The girls just look at each other and shake their heads. No, they won't come out. Those aren't the rules. Dad has to find them first. This is so much fun. Jadis stands in the middle of the dining room, looking at the laid table. The soup in the bowls has stopped steaming. She bites her full lip. She called twice. Usually, girls come running right away, kicking off their slippers as they fly. She walks out of the dining room into the hall. Girls, this isn't funny. Go now, she says in a stern voice. Silence. A faint shadow of worry crosses her face. Where could they be? Perhaps they were so engrossed in the game that they didn't hear. She decides to find them. She climbs the stairs to the second floor. She peers into their bedroom. The beds are made. The toys are neatly folded. No one is there. She peers into the playroom. It's empty there, too. Only the dolls and teddy bears sit silently on the shelves. Camilla! Kayla! She calls, already standing in the center of the playroom. Her voice echoes throughout the empty room. Silence answered. The uneasiness inside Jadis grew. It was still small, like a lump, but already unpleasant and prickly. She quickly descended, her silk robe fluttering behind her. Jadis heads into the living room. She sees her husband's back there. He's still sitting at the computer. It looks like he hasn't moved since she left to set the table. Insock, she says, coming closer. Have you seen the girls? Insock slowly turns his head. His gaze is clouded. He looks at his wife, but doesn't seem to immediately understand the question. His thoughts are still there, on his work problems, on that angry phone conversation. What? He asks. The girls. Camilla and Kayla. Did you see where they went? Jadis repeats, a note of irritation creeping into her voice. Insock blinks. He glances around the living room, as if expecting to see them there, but the room is empty. No, I haven't seen them. I don't know, he says curtly, turning back to the monitor. They're probably playing somewhere. For him, the conversation is over. He's said everything he knows. He's lost in his thoughts again. Jadis freezes in place. She looks at his motionless back. Irritation turns to anxiety. What do you mean, I don't know? They're here in the house. He should have noticed something. A slight unease begins to swell inside her like dough. Jadis quickly leaves the living room. She decides to check the playroom again, more carefully. Maybe they're hiding there behind a curtain or in the playhouse. She enters the playroom. The room is brightly lit by the sun. All the toys are in place. But her gaze catches on a detail. The furniture near the large dollhouse in the center of the room has been shifted. Not just shifted after playing. Several small doll chairs and a table lie on the floor next to the house, tossed aside. And the doll family itself, Mom, Dad, and the children, lies face down on the carpet, as if they'd been dropped and never picked up. Jadis pauses for a moment. Her daughters are neat. They can make a mess, but they always put the dolls to sleep in their cribs before they leave. That's the way it's always done. But here it's as if someone hastily moved the dollhouse, knocking everything around it over. Who? The girls themselves? But why would they so rudely disrupt their own game? Anxiety grips her heart with a cold hand. She's no longer simply looking for the children for dinner. She's starting to really look for them. Camila! Kayla! Jadis calls, running out of the playroom into the hallway. Her voice is no longer stern, but high and tense. Girls, answer me, now! She runs into the library, peers under the tables. Empty. She runs into her dressing room. Only rows of dresses. Children, where are you? Her scream now echoes throughout the entire first floor. There's panic in it now, pure, uncontrollable fear. She peers into every dark corner, opens the cabinet doors in the hallway. Her hands begin to shake. Thoughts race. Were the windows closed? The door to the terrace? And the front door? She doesn't remember. She was in the kitchen. Her beautiful big eyes fill with tears. She can't find them. They've simply disappeared into their own home. In the darkness of the closet, Camilla and Kayla sit huddled together. They hear their mother's distant, but increasingly loud, screams. They no longer seem like part of the game. Their mother's screams are too strange. There's something in her voice that sends shivers down the girls' spines. Mom, is she crying? Kayla whispers, her voice trembling. She's probably afraid Dad will find us first. Camilla tries to joke, but it falls flat. She's scared too. Suddenly, Kayla freezes and grabs her sister's hand again. She peers through the crack, her eyes wide. A boot appears in their line of sight. A large, black, man's boot. It's on the floor just outside the door to the room, in the hallway. It doesn't go inside. It just stands there. Then it turns and leaves just as silently. This isn't Mom's shoe, and it's not Dad's. Dad has different shoes at home. This shoe is someone else's. The same one that passed by earlier? The girls hold their breath. They've just seen proof. There's a stranger in the house, and their mother is there, alone, screaming their names and crying. They suddenly want to run to her, hug her, and tell her they're here. But they're afraid. Afraid of that black boot behind the door. What if it's still there? What if it catches them when they crawl out of the closet? They sit, paralyzed by fear, silent. They have become mute witnesses to something incomprehensible and frightening. Jadis, in tears, rushes back to the living room. She has to get through to Insok. He has to finally understand that something terrible is happening. Insok is still sitting at the table. He heard her screams, but his reaction is slow. He just turned around and looked at her with a blank, bewildered expression. Insok! They're gone! I've looked everywhere. They're not in the house! Jadis sobs, falling to her knees in front of him and grabbing his hands. Insok looks at her face, distorted with fear. He slowly stands up. Calm down. It can't be, he says quietly. They're somewhere here. No, you don't understand, she screams in his face. I've looked everywhere, everywhere. They're gone. She jumps up, grabs her cell phone from the table. With tears in her eyes, she dials Insok's number. Maybe the girls are playing with his phone somewhere quiet? Maybe they'll hear the ringing sound? She puts the phone to her ear. Long beeps. 1, 2, 3, and suddenly, a short busy signal, then more long beeps. Someone else's phone in the house was busy. Not hers. Not Insoka's. His is lying here. So, someone else's? Jadis lowers her hand with the phone. Her face turns waxy, white. She suddenly, terrifyingly, clearly, begins to imagine that they are not alone in the house. That someone is there, someone who took her girls, someone who was just talking on the phone. Insok sees his wife's face change. He sees genuine animalistic terror in her eyes. And this terror finally pierces the armor of his own thoughts. He disconnects from work, from his problems, from everything. He sees only Jadis's panic. And at that moment, like a flash of lightning in his head, memory comes to him. He sees them, Camilla and Kayla. They're standing next to his chair in their white dresses. Their faces are glowing. They're asking for something. Daddy, let's play hide and seek. And his own voice, absent-minded, automatic. Yes, okay, hide. He said it. He agreed. And he forgot. He completely, utterly forgot that they were hiding and that he had to look for them. He sat there, minding his own business, while his daughters, where? How much time had passed? An hour? More? His face, always so firm and controlled, suddenly turns white as paper. His cheekbones jut out sharply. His eyes turn into two black holes of terror. He looks at Jadis, his lips barely moving. Hide and seek, he blurts out in a hoarse, unnatural voice. They asked to play hide and seek. I told them to hide. He says the words, and they hang in the air, terrible and irreversible. Jadis freezes, holds her breath. Her wide eyes look at her husband, and in them, at first, there's incomprehension, and then realization. realization of his monstrous mistake. And with that realization comes a new, even darker wave of fear. If they were hiding all this time, then where are they now? And what if there really was someone else in the house while he sat there? Jadis looks at Insok. She looks silently. The tears stop flowing, but her eyes remain huge and wet. There is no longer any fear in them. There is something different in them now. Cold, impenetrable. She looks at the man she loves and sees a stranger. Sees someone who could forget. Her lips tremble, but she doesn't say a word. She doesn't need to speak. All the horror, all the accusation, all the pain are burned into her gaze. He's forgotten. He let the children hide while he retreats into his thoughts, his work, his secret affairs. He's disconnected from their lives for an entire hour, and in that hour, anything could have happened. That look hits Insok harder than any scream, harder than hysteria. He sees something fundamental between them crumbling. Trust. He stands before her, huge and strong, covered in tattoos, yet he feels small and guilty. His own forgetfulness, his absent-mindedness, have turned into such an abyss that he's afraid to even look into it. Jadis. He tries to begin hoarsely, but the words stick in his throat. What can he say? Sorry? It won't change anything. He needs to act now. Insok turns away from her gaze. He can't bear it. All his energy, all the rage from that phone call, all the horror of his own mistake are now focused on a single point. Search. He turns into a machine. His face hardens, not from calm, but from concentrated anger. Anger at himself, at the situation, at the potential threat. The first thing he does is go to the front door. He checks the lock. It's locked with an internal deadbolt. No one could have opened it from the outside. So, if they left, they did so on their own. Or, someone took them out through another door. Insok goes to the hallway, to the door leading to the garden. It's also locked. The windows in the living room and dining room are latched. He checks each one quickly but thoroughly. His movements are sharp, precise. He doesn't run or shout. He acts as if on a mission. Then he goes up to the second floor. He checks the bedroom windows. Everything is locked. He looks into each room again. But this time, he's not just looking for children. He's looking for signs. Signs of someone else's presence. Moved furniture. A wardrobe open in the wrong place. Footprints. He comes downstairs, his heavy footsteps echoing in the silence. Jadis stands in the middle of the living room, her arms wrapped around her shoulders. She watches him act, and her gaze no longer holds accusation, but desperate hope. He's doing something. He's trying to fix everything. In the darkness of the closet, Camilla and Kayla clung to each other so tightly they seemed to have grown together. They heard their mother scream. They heard the terrible silence afterward, and now they heard their father's footsteps. Loud, fast, angry footsteps. He walks through the house, but he doesn't call them. He just walks. They're afraid to go out. The memory of the black boot outside the door is still fresh. Who is this guy? Maybe he's still here? Camilla presses her lips to Kayla's ear. Her whisper is barely audible, even in the complete silence of the closet. He wasn't looking for us, she whispers. That guy. He wasn't looking for us in the closet. Kayla nods slowly in the darkness. She realized it too. If the stranger had wanted to find them, he would have opened the closet. But he didn't. He simply stood in the doorway, then left. He was looking for something, Camilla continues to whisper, her childish brain trying to piece together the picture. He came, got his bracelet, and then came back, looking for something else. What? Kayla breathes. I don't know, but not us. He didn't even think about us. The thought is both frightening and reassuring. It wasn't some evil man looking for them, but there was a stranger in their home, searching for something. What? And did he find it? And did he ever leave? They fall silent again, listening. Dad's footsteps are now somewhere far away. Upstairs, they are alone in this quiet room, with the door ajar into the dark corridor. Jadis stands and looks out the window, but sees nothing. Fragments of conversations are spinning in her head. A week, maybe 2 ago, Insok came home late from work. He was tense. He said there had been problems, old problems with someone. He said, "Don't worry, I'll fix it." But there was a worry in his eyes that he couldn't hide. She didn't pay it any mind at the time. He always has things to do. He solves his problems himself, without letting her in on the details. She's used to it. And then this morning, that strange, angry phone conversation the girls heard. If he shows up, I'll deal with it myself. Jadis's mind, forming a terrible but logical picture. His problems, his strange behavior, his detachment today. And now the missing children in the locked house, the open door to the maid's room on her day off. The way he's now searching not just for the children, but something else. Checking the locks, the windows, as if searching for a point of entry. She slowly turns and looks up the stairs, where her husband is now. The terror in her eyes returns, but this time it's of a different kind, more conscious. It's not just fear for the children, it's fear from the realization that something from his past has intruded into their quiet, comfortable life, something dangerous, and that something might still be here. And it might not have taken the children, but what if it came for something else or someone else? And the worst thing is, Insok knew something. He knew and kept silent. And because of his silence, because of his secrets, their daughters are now missing. Insok, she says quietly, but her voice is no longer filled with panic, but with a chilling guess. What's the problem at work? Who is this man? He's here, right? Insok finishes checking the top floor and goes downstairs. His face is still tense, but now his eyes reflect not just anger, but a sharp, predatory intentness. He's no longer just a father searching for his children. He's a man searching for clues. He walks into the entryway, toward the door that leads from the hallway toward the kitchen and utility areas. The floor here is laid with dark tiles. Near the wall, behind a tall vase holding a large plant, his gaze catches a small, almost invisible object. Insok stops. He slowly squats down, his muscles tensing beneath the silk of his suit. He looks at the floor. There, in the crack between the tile and the baseboard, lies a cigarette butt. Not an ordinary cigarette. Short, dark, unfiltered, a distinctive, strong tobacco, the kind smoked by a certain man from his past. Insok doesn't pick up the cigarette butt. He just looks at it. His insides tighten into a cold ball. His worst fears are starting to be confirmed. This isn't a child's prank, not their game gone too far. Someone was here, inside his house, and that someone was standing in his hallway, smoking, perhaps listening, waiting for something. He looks up and scans the hallway. Nothing is touched, nothing is broken. So the man didn't force his way in. Did he enter while the door was open? Or did he have a key? The thought of a key makes Inseok's blood run cold. He stands, his fists clenching. He says quietly, but very clearly to himself, staring into space. So then, Jadis hears Insok come downstairs. She walks out of the living room into the hall. She wants to ask him what the problem is, who this man is, but at that moment she freezes. She suddenly smells a distinct scent, not her perfume, not the smell of food from the kitchen, not the smell of home. It's that same sharp, tart, alien scent of cologne. It's faint, but it's there. It hangs in the air, mingling with the familiar scents. It comes from the far end of the hall, where the corridor to the maid's room and the back exit begins. Jadis turns slowly toward it. She follows the scent, as if in a fog. She passes Insok, who stands in the hallway, unnoticed. She walks down that distant hallway she rarely frequents. The scent becomes slightly more distinct. It's coming from there, from behind the door to the maid's room. She stops in front of the door. It's still ajar. Jadis doesn't go inside. She stands there, breathing in the air, and she understands. She's smelled this scent before, this morning. On her way down to the dining room, she caught a glimpse of it in the hall, but she didn't pay attention, thinking it was the new air freshener or something from the kitchen. Now she knows. It's not the air freshener. It's a foreign scent in her house. The scent of someone who shouldn't be here. She turns and looks at Insok. He's already approached her. His eyes look at the half-open door, then at her face. Do you smell it? Jadis asks quietly. Insok nods slowly. He does. Both the smell and the cigarette butt in the hallway form a single name for him, a single face from the past, one he hoped never to see again. Insok stands next to his wife, looking at the half-open door. And suddenly, like a blow, the morning returns to his mind, a tiny detail he hadn't noticed then. At breakfast, Kayla, spreading jam on her toast, looked up at him with her large, clear eyes. "Dad, are we having guests today?" she asked simply, out of politeness, the way children sometimes do. He then, checking the news on his phone, waved it off. "No, honey, no guests. It'll be just us." She nodded and continued eating breakfast. He forgot about the question a second later. Now the question resonates in his head with a completely different meaning. Ominous, chilling. Had Kayla sensed something? Perhaps she'd smelled it before anyone else. Or seen something? Perhaps she'd simply asked intuitively, because the tension he'd brought with him from yesterday's conversation was already lingering in the house. His daughter, his 6-year-old Kayla, may have sensed the threat he, a grown, strong man, had tried to ignore and control. He was trying to solve the problem himself without frightening his family, but the problem had already entered his home, and his daughter may have sensed it. "This morning," Insok's voice is muffled, as if he's talking to himself. Kayla asked if there were guests. Jadis looks at him and understanding flashes in her eyes. "What? When?" "At breakfast." "I said no." He doesn't finish. Neither of them needs to say the next thought out loud, but it hangs in the air, heavy and unbearable. What if he had taken this matter seriously then? If he had been wary, started checking the house, talked to his daughters, maybe things would have been different. Maybe he would have had time. A sharp, sickening feeling of guilt rises in his throat. He swallows it, forcing himself to focus on the present moment, on what is now. They stand together in the quiet corridor. There are no more accusations between them, no more panic. Now there is a quiet, cold, mutual horror at the realization of one fact. Jadis pieced it all together in her mind. His secrecy, his angry conversation, the maid's door left ajar on her day off, a strange smell here and there in the hall, a cigarette butt in the entryway, the children disappearing after a game of hide-and-seek they'd invited him to play, and he'd forgotten. Insok assembles his picture, a threat from an old partner, a warning he sent, a cigarette butt, like a calling card, a smell he remembers from old, unpleasant encounters, and most importantly, the silence. Where are his girls? Are they simply hiding and silent, frightened by the screams? Or did something happen to them while this man was in the house? He glances at the half-open door, the maid's room, the only place at this end of the house that can be entered, the only place that smells so strongly of someone else. Logic, cold and inexorable, tells him his next move. "They could have hidden here," he says quietly, looking at the door. "It's far away. This isn't their room. The perfect place to hide." Jadis clutches at the thought like a drowning man clutching at a straw. Yes. It makes sense. They were so clever. They could. But the smell, she whispers. That man was here. Could he still be there? Insok shakes his head. He listens. There's no sound from behind the door. No rustling, no laughter. Only silence. "If he were there, we would have known by now," he says. But there's no certainty in his voice. There's only a decision to act. He takes a step forward, placing himself between his wife and the door. His body, his entire being, tenses, preparing for what he might see. An empty room. A room with signs of a struggle. A room where he can't afford to think any further. He must see. He looks at Jadis. His eyes say, "Stay here." Her eyes are full of fear, but she nods. She understands. Insok turns toward the door. He approaches slowly, silently. His tattooed hand reaches for the wooden surface. He doesn't push the door open sharply. He presses it gently, allowing it to open a little further, sliding silently across the carpet. The gap gets wider. He peers inside. The first thing he sees is a neat bed, empty. A table. On the table is a plate. On the plate are cookies. The room seems empty, but his gaze, accustomed to noticing details, immediately catches two things. First, there's something dark and oblong lying on the floor by the foot of the bed. It looks like a belt. Second, and most importantly, there's a large, dark wardrobe in the corner. Its door is closed, but not quite all the way, and from behind this closed door there is no sound. Insok's head with such clarity that for a moment he catches his breath. The whole house had been searched. All their usual spots had been checked, all except this room, the maid's room. He hadn't gone there right away because he knew it was Aunt Sophia's day off. Why would the children come here? But they really wanted to hide. They were looking for the most inconspicuous, the most remote place. And this was it. The quiet end of the hallway. Someone else's room. The perfect hiding place for hide and seek. And then another one pops into his mind, a chilling thought. And that man? The one whose cigarette butt is lying in the hallway. Whose smell hangs in the air. He was right here. In this room. He came here twice. The girls saw. What if? No. He can't afford to think about it. He has to act. He pulls away from the door and turns sharply to Jadis. She sees the change in his face. She sees the flash of not hope in his eyes, but some wild, desperate resolve. "Here," he says dully. "They should be here." He doesn't explain why. He doesn't have time. He pushes away from the doorframe and takes one huge step back into the hallway. Then, a sharp jerk forward. He doesn't walk. He runs toward that door, those 2 steps like the leap of an enraged animal, his silk suit flapping in the air. Jadis yelps in surprise and takes a step after him, but he's already disappeared through the doorway. Insok bursts into the room, his large body filling the space by the door. He stops, and his razor-sharp eyes scan everything around him in a split second. The room seems empty, perfectly tidy. The bed is made, nothing is moved, nothing is upside down. Everything is in its place. But this orderliness seems unnatural. After the panic, after the horror they experienced, this silence and order seem like a mockery. The silence here seems especially loud. It presses on his ears, and in it, the only sound is the frantic pounding of his own heart. Resounding, rapid, like a drum roll. It seems like this pounding could wake anyone. His gaze glides around the room. A small table, cookies, the floor, a dark strap at the foot of the bed, and a wardrobe. A large, dark, old wardrobe. Its door is not fully closed. There's a black gap there. Insok freezes. He stares at the crack and holds his breath. His entire world has narrowed to this piece of dark wood. It's dark there. It's quiet. What's there? Emptiness? Or his girls? Frightened? Silent? Or he forcefully pushes the last thought out of his head. He takes a slow, silent step forward. Then another. He approaches the wardrobe. He stands 2 steps away now. He hears Jadis run into the room behind him. He feels her presence at his back, hears her ragged breathing. But he doesn't turn around. All his attention is there, behind that wooden door. A second passes. 2. Silence. Insok is about to reach out and pull the door open. His fingers clench into a fist with tension. And suddenly, he hears it. A very quiet, muffled sound. Almost inaudible. Like a laugh someone is trying to suppress with their hands. Right from behind the wardrobe door. Then a soft rustling sound. The familiar rustling of cookie wrappers or foil. Quiet. Rustling. Insok freezes. His heart, which had been pounding like crazy, seems to stop for a second. This sound, it's not the sound of danger. It's not the sound of something alien. It's a child's sound. A sound that means there's life there, small, hidden, but life nonetheless. He sees the gap between the wardrobe door and the frame widen slightly. Someone is moving inside. He can't wait any longer. He needs to see. Now. Camilla! Kayla! He says. His voice, usually so firm and low, sounds hoarse and uncertain, almost a whisper. There is no command in it. There is only question, hope, and fear. Silence in response. Then another rustling sound, and a small, thin voice that he would recognize in a million. Daddy? It's Kayla's voice. It comes from behind the wooden door, muffled but utterly real. All the rigidity, all the tension, suddenly leaves Insiok's body. His shoulders sag, but he doesn't quite believe it yet. He has to see. It's me. Come out, he says, his voice softer now. The game is over. You win. Another couple of agonizing seconds passed. Then the wardrobe door creaked and slowly, hesitantly slid open. At first, Insok sees only darkness within. Then, in this darkness, 2 silhouettes appear. 2 small figures, sitting on the floor among hanging clothes. And 2 pale spots, their faces, their eyes wide-eyed at him, filled with a strange, adult seriousness and the remnants of childish fear. There they are, Camilla and Kayla, safe, unharmed, alive. They're still wearing the same white dresses, but now they're stained with something brown, chocolate or cookie crumbs. Their little hands are clutching half a shortbread cookie. Camilla has a large chocolate stain on her cheek. They look like they're having a secret picnic in the middle of a disaster. Insiok doesn't move. He simply watches. He absorbs this image, like a man who finds water in the desert. He watches as their eyes, upon seeing him, gradually fill with relief, their seriousness giving way to a timid smile. And then Jadis overtakes him from behind. With a quiet sob that erupts from the depths of her soul, she falls to her knees in front of the wardrobe and holds out her hands. My girls! Oh my God, my girls! Camilla and Kayla, finally realizing the game is definitely over and their mother is crying, crawl out of their hiding place. They throw themselves into her arms, clinging to her silk robe, staining it with chocolate. Jadis hugs them so tightly, as if she wants to draw them into herself, to bury them back in her heart. She kisses the tops of their heads, their cheeks, and strokes their golden curls. Her body is racked with sobs, but now these are tears of such wild, all-consuming relief that she can't hold them back. "Mom, we're here," Kayla mumbles, burying her face in her shoulder. "We were just playing," Camilla adds, her voice muffled by the fabric of her robe. Insok watches this scene. He's still standing, his feet rooted to the floor. He watches Jadis check them with shaking hands, stroking their backs, their arms, making sure they're all right, that there are no wounds, nothing serious. He watches his daughters, a little embarrassed by the onslaught of emotion, but happy, hug their mother back. Only now does he allow himself to take a step. He kneels down beside them. He's not as emotional as Jadis. He simply places his large, tattooed hand first on Camilla's head, then on Kayla's. His palm feels enormous on their small heads with their soft curls. He feels warmth, life beneath his fingers. They are here. They are with him. He closes his eyes for a second and just breathes. The worst nightmare of his life is over. They've been found. They're safe. But even now, in this moment of relief, he can't forget what happened before. Whose scent is here? Whose cigarette butt is in the hallway? And that his children were sitting in this closet while a stranger walked through the house. He opens his eyes and looks at their dirty faces. They were just playing hide and seek, and he played a game for them he never even imagined. The hug lasts a long time. Finally, Jadis releases the girls, but holds their hands, as if afraid they'll dissolve. She looks at their dirty faces and smiles through her tears. "You scared us so much," she says, wiping her cheek with the back of her hand. Camilla and Kayla look at her, then at their father. They see that their parents have calmed down. Now they can talk. The game is definitely over. Camilla, still chewing on the last piece of cookie, looks at her dad seriously. "Dad, we saw this guy here," she says simply, as if reporting the weather. The silence in the room suddenly becomes thick. The smile on Jadis's face fades. Insok stops stroking his daughter's heads. His hand stills. "Which uncle?" Jadis asks quietly, very quietly. Her fingers involuntarily squeeze the child's hands. "A stranger," Kayla chimes in. "He was sleeping on Aunt Sophia's bed. When we walked in, we didn't wake him. We quietly took the cookies and hid in the closet." Insok and Jadis exchange glances. Their gazes are filled with one question. Who is this? And what was he doing here? "Then he left," Camilla adds, shrugging, as if it were the most ordinary thing to find a sleeping stranger in the house. "We saw him through the crack. He was looking for something," Kayla says, her brow furrowing with the effort of remembering. "He looked under the bed and in the nightstand. Then he left." The girls blurt it all out in one fell swoop, not understanding the meaning of their words. For them, it's just an interesting detail of their adventure, almost like a movie. Insok exhales slowly. So the man was here, in this room. He was sleeping. He was looking for something. And then he left. So he didn't pose a direct threat to the children. He didn't even notice them. The thought that his daughters were sitting just a few meters from the intruder sends a cold shiver down his spine. But it's still better than the worst-case scenario. It seems the worst secret has already been revealed. But Kayla, seeing her parents listening so attentively, decides to share one more important piece of news. She tugs her mother's hand to bend over. "Mom, he also took your jewelry box," she whispers, as if telling a big secret. Jadis freezes. "What box?" "The little one. The green one. The one on your vanity in the bedroom. Your earrings are there," Kayla explains. She knows her mother's things well. Jadis straightens slowly. Her face turns stony. She looks at Insok. "My malachite box," she says silently. "The one her grandmother gave her. There's nothing particularly valuable in it. A few pairs of inexpensive earrings, a couple of rings. Sentimental value, but nothing more." "He took her and carried her away?" Insok asks Kayla, his voice unnaturally even. Kayla nods. "Uh-huh. He took it very carefully, from the nightstand, and left. He didn't even look at us. We were sitting in the closet, very quiet, so he wouldn't wake us. And he just up and left." The girls' last words hang in the air. Insok and Jadis look at each other, and in their eyes, the same slow, terrible reassessment of everything that has happened in these hours occurs. Panic. The children disappearing. Screams. Tears. All this nightmare. All this all-consuming pain. It was a mistake. A tragic, monstrous mistake, based on his forgetfulness. The stranger's true purpose for his visit was different. Completely different. He hadn't come for the children. He hadn't even known they were in this room. He'd come for some trinket from his mother's table. Perhaps it was a signal, a hello from the past, or simply a petty theft to prove he could enter Insok's house whenever he wanted. But because Insok forgot about the game, because the girls remained silent, obeying the rules, this petty theft turned into hours of pure hell for their parents. The children's disappearance wasn't the goal. It was a terrible, accidental consequence. Jadis closes her eyes. Her body shakes with a new wave of emotion, but this time it's not fear, but a kind of bitter, debilitating relief, mixed with a searing resentment. Their family was plunged into such horror because of something trivial, because of some box, and because of her husband's forgetfulness. Insok stands up. His knees click slightly. He feels incredibly tired and old. He walks to the spot by the foot of the bed where his gaze had fallen before. He bends down. The very same belt lies on the floor, the one the girls saw on the table. Someone else's, a leather rough belt. Insok doesn't pick it up with his bare hands. He takes a clean handkerchief from the pocket of his silk suit, carefully hooks the belt under it, and lifts it up. He examines it. Simple, yet high-quality leather. A metal buckle with no identifying marks. But for Insok, it's more than just a strap. It's evidence, proof that he was here, proof that his home, his fortress, was breached, and proof of how fragile his peace, his confidence in control, had become. He turns and shows Jadis his find. She looks at the strap lying on the white handkerchief in his enormous palm and nods. So it's all true. Not a dream, not a figment of a child's imagination. He dropped it, Insok says quietly. And in those 3 words there's relief, meaning the thief could have been in a hurry, could have been nervous. Anger, meaning he was so close to his children. And cold determination. Insok puts the strap in his pocket. Then he kneels down again next to his family. He doesn't try to hug everyone at once, like Jadis did. He places his hands on his daughter's shoulders, then one hand on his wife's shoulder. It forms a circle, the circle of their family. He looks at Camilla and Kayla. Their faces are frightened, but already calming down. "You were so good at sitting quietly," he tells them, and his voice now sounds like his father's, firm and calm. "But I'm sorry. I forgot we were playing. That was very bad of me. And I promise you," he looks at Jadis now, "I promise all of you, it will never happen again. Never." These aren't just words spoken for comfort. There's something unwavering in his voice, in his eyes, looking over his daughters' heads directly at his wife. It's a vow. The vow of a soldier who's made a mistake and now knows the price of that mistake. His look tells Jadis much more. "I will deal with this, with whoever came. I will restore order. I will ensure safety. No one will enter our house without asking again. No one!" Jadis reads it in his eyes. She's still hurt, still shocked, but she doesn't see the absent-minded, self-absorbed man he was today. She sees the man she once chose. Strong, determined, focused on what matters most. Them. She nods slowly. She believes him, or wants to. Evening. The house is quiet again, but this is a different kind of silence. The girls, fed, washed, and dressed in clean pajamas, are finally asleep in their beds. Their sleep is restless, with occasional twitches. Jadis sits next to them until they fall fast asleep. In the study, on a large desk next to a switched-off computer, lie 2 objects. On a blank white sheet of paper, one is a dark leather strap. The other is a small dark button that Camilla, just before bed, suddenly remembered and gave to her father. She said she picked it up from the floor in the maid's room when she was getting out of the closet. The button was from someone else's clothing. These 2 objects lie there like silent witnesses, as proof of the invasion, as a reminder. The calm, carefree life that was here this morning is gone. It burst like a soap bubble. Now there's a new reality. A reality in which someone can enter their home without knocking. In which a game of hide-and-seek can turn into hours of nightmare. Whose father has enemies from the past, who are capable of such things. But there's something else in this new reality. There's a family that has overcome fear and been found. There's a father who swore an oath and has no intention of breaking it. His tattooed hands, which today trembled with terror, now rest calmly on the table next to the evidence. He looks at them. His face, with its strong cheekbones and firm jaw, is focused. There's no panic or anger in his eyes. There's a cold, clear determination in them. Analysis. A plan. He now knows exactly what he must protect, and he knows what he must do to achieve it. The story isn't over. It's only just entering a new chapter. A chapter where Insok will no longer simply work, oblivious to everything. He will stand guard, His first mistake was his last. From this moment on, everything changes. Morning comes to the house, but it is not like the previous ones. The sun shines just as brightly, but the silence in the house is now tense as a string. It's not peaceful, but wary. Camilla and Kayla wake up almost simultaneously. They're lying in their cribs, staring at the ceiling. Usually, they jump up immediately and run to wake their parents or play. Today, they just lie there. They whisper, "I dreamed we were still in the closet," says Kayla. "And I dreamed that the guy didn't take the box, but our cat," replies Camilla. They don't have a cat. They are silent, listening to the sounds of the house. Jadis had barely slept. She was the first to rise. She wasn't wearing her silk robe, but simple cotton pants and a t-shirt. She was making breakfast in the kitchen, but her movements were automatic. Every now and then, she went to the kitchen window and looked out into the yard. Then she went to the door into the hallway and listened for the girls. Her face looked tired, and there were dark shadows under her eyes. Insok is already on his feet. He's not wearing a silk suit. He's wearing dark sweatpants and a simple black t-shirt that clings to his muscular torso. The tattoos on his arms are completely visible. He's already walked around the entire house, not like yesterday, in a panic. Slowly, methodically, he checks every window, clicking the frames, tugging the handles. He checks the locks on all the doors, including the ones leading to the basement and the attic. He notices something he hadn't seen before, an old, almost imperceptible scratch on the lock of the garden door, the mark of a master key or something similar. He runs his finger over it, and his face becomes even more inscrutable. It's unusually quiet at breakfast. The table is set. It smells of omelets and toast, but the usual laughter and chatter are absent. The girls come into the dining room holding hands. They sit in silence. They eat small bites, glancing now at their mother, now at their father. Jadis serves them food, constantly stroking their heads, straightening their hair. She can't stop. She needs to physically feel that they're there, that they're close. "Eat, my dears," she says, her voice hoarse from lack of sleep. Insok sits up straight. He's eating, but his gaze constantly wanders around the room, to the windows. He doesn't look at his phone. He's completely present. He listens to every sound in the house. "Dad," Camilla suddenly says, putting down her fork. Everyone looks at her. "That guy had a picture on his arm, like yours." She points her finger at the tattoos on Insyok's forearm. Insok slowly lowers his fork. The clatter of dishes seems very loud. "What picture?" he asks calmly, but inside he feels a knot in his stomach. Camilla wrinkles her forehead, trying to remember. "There was a bird, with its wings outstretched. Right here." She runs her finger along her wrist. "A bird's claw," Kayla says quietly, not looking at anyone, picking at her omelet with her fork. "He opened the door with his hand, I saw it. A claw and part of a wing." Insok and Jadis exchange glances again. Now the intruder has more than just a scent and a cigarette butt. He has an identifying mark, a tattoo, a bird with outstretched wings and a claw on its wrist. Insok knows this tattoo. He knows the man who wears it. His name is Lloyd, and it confirms Insok's worst fears. The threat is specific, and it has a name. After breakfast, Insok announces that everyone is staying home today. No walks, no visiting friends. Even Aunt Sophia, the maid Jadis called, gets an extra day off. Jadis doesn't argue. She nods. She wants this herself. She's afraid to let her daughters out of her sight. Insok goes into his office and closes the door. He's not here to work. He sits down at the desk where his belt and button are. He picks up his phone. He doesn't make calls. First, he writes messages. Short, businesslike. He writes to an old friend who now works in security. He writes to someone else who understands security systems. He arranges an urgent meeting, not at his home, but in a neutral location. Then he opens the bottom drawer of his desk. There's no gun there. There are old documents, notebooks, photographs. He's looking for something specific. He finds an old, worn photograph. It shows several young men. They're standing against the backdrop of a garage, smiling. Insok is among them, younger, without that hard seriousness in his eyes, and another man, with a narrow face and a predatory smile. On his wrist, even in the black and white photograph, the dark mark of a tattoo is visible. Lloyd. Insok stares at the photograph for a long moment. Then he puts it back. His actions are precise, without unnecessary movements. He's no longer a frightened father. He's a strategist, formulating a plan. Meanwhile, in the living room, Jadis is trying to play with her daughters. They're putting together a puzzle, but her gaze keeps wandering. She gets up, goes to the window, and looks out. She comes back, sits down, picks up a puzzle piece, but can't concentrate. "Mommy, are you crying?" Camilla asks, looking at her. Jadis quickly wipes her eyes. "No, honey, just a speck of dust." But the girls don't believe it. They sense the tension. They themselves behave quietly, don't run, don't scream. It's as if they understand that the rules have changed. Insok leaves the office. He approaches Jadis. "I need to leave for a couple of hours," he says quietly. "On business. Very important." Jadis grabs his hand. Panic instantly flashes in her eyes. "Where? Alone? No! I'll be in touch. Every half hour. You can call me whenever you want. But this is necessary, so that this doesn't happen again." He looks her straight in the eyes, and she sees in them not a request, but a need. She slowly lets go of his hand and nods. She doesn't want to let him go, but she understands, or wants to understand, that he's doing this for them. "Promise you'll be careful," she whispers. "I promise," he replies. He approaches the girls and kisses them on the tops of their heads one by one. "Listen to your mother. I'll be back soon." "Are you going to catch that guy?" Kayla asks bluntly, looking at him with her wide eyes. Insok winces slightly. "No, I'm going to make sure no other guys come here again. Ever?" He leaves. Jadis hears the locks on the front door click. The sound seems so loud in the silence of the house. She goes to the door and checks it's locked. Then she returns to her daughters and hugs them. The three of them sit on the carpet, among the scattered puzzle pieces, and simply remain silent, listening to the silence, which is now full of new, frightening meanings. Insok drives to the meeting. He's behind the wheel of his SUV. His face is focused. He's not listening to music. He's thinking. He remembers Lloyd. He remembers old debts, not in money, but in favors. He remembers threats that seemed empty words back then. He thinks about the green box. Why does he need it? It's worth next to nothing. It's a message. Clear and simple. "I was in your house. I took what belonged to your woman. I can do anything." But Lloyd was wrong about one thing. He didn't know there were children in the house. He didn't expect his visit to cause such a storm. And he didn't take into account what Insok was now capable of, for them. Insok parks at a small cafe. A man his age, wearing a simple jacket and a serious expression, is already waiting for him. They greet each other with a nod, without smiling. They sit down at a table in the corner. "Tell me what happened," the friend says, and Insok tells it, briefly, without emotion, about hide and seek, about the open door, about the smell, the cigarette butt, the tattoo, about the box. He doesn't mention his fear and panic, just the facts. The friend listens without interrupting. Then he nods. "Lloyd? Yeah, he came back to town last week, making noise, looking up old connections. Thought you knew." "I was out of the game," Insok says. "Now I'm in. I need a system. The best one. On the windows, on the doors, motion sensors all around. Everything. And fast." "We'll do it," the friend says. "And what about the source of the problem?" Insok looks at him coldly. "First, protection. Then the conversation. But this conversation will happen on my terms." He says this with such confidence that his friend simply nods. He sees in Insok the same determination he once had many years ago, but now it's backed not by youthful insolence, but by something more serious, responsibility. Insok returns home 2 hours later. He's carrying several boxes of equipment. He's not alone. A technician, that friend, is with him. Jadis opens the door, seeing them through the peephole. She lets them in. She doesn't ask questions. She sees that Insok has taken matters into his own hands. Work continues around the house for the rest of the day. But it's quiet and careful. New locks with opening sensors are installed on the windows. Discrete magnetic contacts are installed on the doors. A small, almost invisible camera is installed near the front door. Insok doesn't hide this from the girls. On the contrary, he explains it simply. "These are new toys for the house. They'll beep if the door opens at the wrong time." The girls watch everything with interest. It's a new game for them. By evening, the work is finished. The technician leaves. The house looks the same, but now it resembles a quiet fortress. Dinner is quiet again, but the tension is less intense. There's a sense that at least something has been accomplished. There's some kind of control, even an illusory one. When the girls fall asleep, Insiok and Jadis remain in the kitchen. They sit at the table. Cups of cold tea are between them. "Thank you," Jadis says first. without looking at him. I have nothing to thank you for, In-seok replies. I should have done this a long time ago. Why did he come, In-seok? What does he want? She finally asks the main question that has been gnawing at her all day. In-seok is silent for a long time. Then he exhales. Old deeds. Mistakes. He wants to show that he can reach me, that I'm not hiding. And we? We are a way to reach you? Her voice trembles. In-seok looks at her. His eyes seem very dark in the light of the kitchen lamp. No, never again. You are not a way. You are the reason he will regret ever thinking about me. He says this without malice, without pathos, simply as a fact. Jadis looks at him and sees not the busy, distant man of recent months. She sees a man who has returned to them, at the cost of terrible fear, but he has returned. She places her hand on top of his. For the first time this long day, I'm still mad at you, she says honestly. I know. I'm mad at myself too. But I believe you, she adds. It's all he needs now. It's a small bridge across the chasm that has formed between them. Later, standing in the darkness by his bedroom window, looking out onto the dark courtyard, now guarded by censors, In-seok thinks. The promise he made to his daughters was the first step. Installing the wards was the second. Tomorrow would be the third. He would find Lloyd, not for revenge, for a final conversation, to erase his family from this man's sight forever. He looks at his sleeping daughters, sees how sadly, even in her sleep, Jadis's face is pinched. He feels the hard edge of someone else's belt in his pocket, and he knows that his new reality is the reality of a protector, and he is ready to live in it for the rest of his life.